Joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline, David Nixon. I believe a man who never lost to Utah State. He can confirm that right now. David, did you ever lose to Utah State?
No, of course not.
How many times did you play them? Because there were a few years where BYU and Utah State didn't play at all.
Oh, man. That's a good question. I think three. I think three. I have to go back and look. I just remember playing at home, and we blanked them. I think it was like 40-something to 0. And then my only other memory is when we were ranked ninth in the country or top 10, and we head up there to Logan.
Oh, wait.
Exactly, 2008, my senior year. And we were up on them. They scored some garbage touchdown with like a couple minutes left on our second stringers. And we're now up at like 10 or 17 or something, and they start chanting overrated to us.
You were up 34-0. They scored 2 touchdowns. And they chanted over. I remember I was on the sideline. I was like, what in the world?
And they started chanting overrated to us, and that's when I realized, you guys, it's tough. It's tough for you guys. I get it. So anyways, ever since then, I've always felt like we should definitely beat them every time. But going into this year, I hope. This one's a tough one because, I mean, this is a game that everyone looked at the calendar and schedule and said, okay, this is an easy win, you know. And then BYU stumbles coming out of the blocks, and obviously they've struggled a lot this year. And then you look at what Utah State did to San Jose State, putting up more points against San Jose State at their place than Utah did at home.
Then BYU scored this season.
It scored this season combined. It's intriguing. I think it's actually going to end up being a great game, and I think as a BYU fan, obviously it'll be interesting to see what team comes out. I mean, this bye week I think helps immensely with this BYU offense, and Bo Hodge, you know, if he does continues to be the starter this week, you know, helps him offensively, trying to figure out, you know, Ty Detmer putting in packages to help him as well. So I'm interested to see what type of offense rolls out there come Friday evening. But man, this went from kind of a surefire win with how Utah State came out of the blocks, you know, not being super impressive this year. You know, Wisconsin lost, and then Idaho State was convincing. You know, Wake Forest, they got smacked around, but then San Jose State, they rebounded. So, you know, I think a lot of people are wondering who Utah State is as well. It's an intriguing matchup for sure.
It is really weird to sit here and chat about Utah State and feel like BYU might lose that game. But that's what it feels like right now, which is a little odd. It has everything to do with how BYU's played. Who BYU's played certainly factors in. What would surprise you Friday night? What result would surprise you, David?
I think Utah State. I think if Utah State came out and just had their will with BYU's defense, I think BYU's defense will be the one unit that'll be able to keep BYU in this game. And if Utah State can do their right option spread offense that they've shown and have explosive guys that, you know, with Kent Myers at running back, and they've got kind of a by committee running back committee that can put the hurt on you as well, and they're very explosive. If they can come out there and have their way, I get worried because this BYU offense has shown they can't really move the ball and sustain drives very well. So BYU could be in a lot of hurt and a lot of trouble if this defense can't step up and stop it. Granted, BYU defense did a great job against Utah. You know, this is a very similar type offense. In fact, you got a very mobile quarterback. You got athletes everywhere. But BYU showed defensively they can stop Utah. The question is, once again, it all falls on offense. Can they get the ball going? Can they move the ball? And I think there was a lot of problems there with Wisconsin that second drive. Obviously, the first drive, Bo threw a pick. The second drive of the game against Wisconsin, you had a heavy dose of Ula Tolutau. Bo as well was able to scramble. So can they kind of carry that same mentality and same approach they took on that second drive and apply it to this week? If so, I think you'll see this offense get back on track.
David Nixon, former NFL and BYU linebacker, with us on BYU Sports Nation. David, true or false? Utah State is the biggest game of the season for BYU.
I mean, at this point, it has to be. I mean, the difference between 2-3 and 1-4 is massive. I mean, it's literally, you know, a season-ending type deal if you go 1-4. It's tough to rebound from that, especially when you lose to your both in-state foes, you know, in Utah and Utah State. So it's huge. There's no doubt this is a must-win for BYU. I think you get this one underneath your belt, gain some confidence, knowing that, okay, we can still hang with teams. We played some tough teams at the beginning, but now we're going to roll. And then you have Boise State come in. That Boise State has shown that they can get exposed as well, even though that will be a great game, I anticipate. and then you just kind of fight through the rest of the schedule and see what you can make of it. But no doubt this is the biggest game. I think it's a must-win at this point. If BYU loses this, oh man, it could get ugly. It could get. I mean, because here's the thing: you go on to lose some games here and there, or win some games here and there, and lose a couple of, maybe to Boise State and Mississippi State. Man, this whole season you almost write it off because you started 1-4 and lost to Utah State, which should have been a win when we looked at it preseason.
David, this game in Vegas opened at 6.5. It's down to 3. People like Utah State in this. Bo Hodge is the guy until Tanner Mangum comes out healthy. We don't know when that's going to be. So if Bo Hodge is the guy, how confident are you in this BYU offense that they'll be able to have a breakout? Like, is it unrealistic to think BYU scores 21 plus in this game? Is that crazy?
No, I don't think so. I think BYU, their running game, I think they'll be able to have their way with Utah State's defense, and I think their running game will finally get back on track, and that will just lift a lot of weight off Bo's shoulders. If you have a guy like Ula and Squally and those guys running and be able to produce yards and create more manageable second and third downs. So I think the running game will have more success than it has in the prior games. But I think this offense can put up points. I think it's built to put up points. It's never been able to get on track. And BYU's been left with third and longs, and they have been facing tough defenses. And so this is really the first week, besides Portland State, obviously, but this is the first week BYU can, offense can take a sigh of relief and say, man, we're facing a team that we think we have an advantage of. I mean, you look at the matchups prior to this week, and BYU's offense was really probably not favored in any of those matchups. Offensive line versus defensive lines, running backs versus linebackers. I mean, receivers were usually overmanned. So I don't know. I think it's the first week they can finally go in this game with some confidence and say, okay, we're playing against guys that are probably more on our level and that we can compete with. And that hopefully should give them some confidence. But those first few drives, it will be interesting. I mean, Utah State's going to come out fired up, obviously. So those first few drives are going to be really intriguing to see if BYU can move the ball. And they don't necessarily have to put up points per se, but can they just move the ball? Because if they can't move the ball, then it starts creeping in the back of everyone, all the players' minds. Like, man, maybe we don't stand a chance. Maybe we aren't that good, and maybe we can't move the ball against these guys. And that's where it starts to get a little tricky.
David, great stuff, man. It's come to this. It hurts, but it's come to this.
It's come to this, but you know what, guys? It is interesting. This is one of those games that I think if BYU can go out there and win convincingly, this could rewrite the ship and get BYU back on the right track and put some hope back in the fans for the rest of the season. We'll see what happens.
All right, Dave. We'll see you on After Further Review tomorrow.